The episode. Under the protective canopy of the World Tree, young Sylas and Elias played, their laughter mingling with the rustle of leaves. Curiosity led them to a thick curtain of vines, behind which they discovered the entrance to a hidden cave. With hearts pounding in excitement, they ventured inside, the air growing cooler with each step. "Do you think anyone's been here before?" Sylas whispered, his eyes wide as they adjusted to the dim light. "Not sure," Elias replied, his voice tinged with awe. "Look at those markings on the walls. This place is ancient." They continued deeper until they stumbled upon an ornate stone seat, surrounded by a mysterious, shimmering liquid. The seat pulsed faintly, its surface etched with intricate glowing patterns that seemed to shift as they stared. "What's that?" Sylas asked, pointing at the liquid. "Looks like water, but different," Elias said, curiosity getting the better of him as he approached the seat. "I dare you to sit on it." Before Sylas could protest, Elias plopped down on the stone seat. Suddenly, a wave of energy pulsed outward, knocking Sylas off his feet and into the shimmering liquid. He hit the surface with a splash, the icy cold shocking him to his core. "Elias! What's happening?" Sylas shouted, struggling to get his footing in the strange pool. But as he tried to stand, the liquid pulled at him, its sickly green glow intensifying. A searing heat exploded through his veins, forcing him back under. He screamed, but the sound was muffled as the liquid enveloped him, filling his ears with a deafening roar. The pool hissed and bubbled as the seat's energy grew wilder, pulsating in rhythm with Elias's rigid, motionless form. Sylas thrashed in the liquid, but his movements slowed as the pain gave way to something deeper, something transformative. His skin burned, not from the liquid's heat, but from the emergence of vivid green patterns snaking across his arms. They spread like vines, curling over his shoulders and chest, glowing faintly as though alive. Above him, the Nightmare Lord's seat seemed to react, its pulsating energy synchronizing with the pool. And then, amidst the chaos, a voice, not Elias's, not Sylas's, spoke in Sylas's mind. Deep, resonant, and impossibly ancient, it filled him with both dread and awe. "The poison pool. It has awakened within you." Sylas's thoughts swirled in confusion and pain as the voice continued, relentless and undeniable. "This is the legacy of the Poison Lord. The venom has chosen you, child. It will shape you, twist you, strengthen you, but only if you survive." Images flashed in his mind, dark forests, venomous creatures, and an endless cascade of poisonous herbs. He could feel the liquid crawling through his veins, changing him in ways he couldn't yet understand. His tattoos, vivid and intricate, pulsed with energy, marking him as something new. "These marks are your burden," the seat continued, its tone indifferent. "Proof of the venom's choice. Master it, or be consumed by it." And then, just as suddenly as it began, the chaos stopped. Sylas's eyes snapped open, and he found himself lying on the stone floor of the cave, gasping for air. The pool around him had stilled, its glow dimming to a faint shimmer. He rolled onto his side, coughing violently, his muscles trembling with exhaustion. "Sylas." The voice of Elias drifted faintly into his mind through their psychic bond. But Sylas didn't respond right away. He stared at his arms, at the glowing tattoos etched into his skin, their intricate designs coiling like living veins. The voice of the seat came again, calm now, almost detached. "Master this power, or be consumed by it. This is your burden to bear." Sylas clenched his fists, his jaw tightening. What am I supposed to do with this?" he muttered, his voice hoarse and raw. The seat gave no answer. Its glow dimmed slightly as though retreating into silence, but Sylas could still feel the venom within him, thrumming like a second heartbeat. Elias's voice returned, stronger this time, though still distant. "Sylas, are you okay?" Sylas staggered to his feet, his jaw tightening as he looked toward the throne where Elias sat. His friend was still bound to the seat, but his voice in Sylas's mind carried a hint of reassurance. "The seat spoke to me," Sylas said, his voice steadier now. It it told me what this pool was, what it's done to me." "And what does it mean?" Elias asked. Sylas exhaled slowly, looking down at his glowing tattoos. "It means I've got a long way to go." A glimpse of the past. As Sylas took another breath, the seat seemed to hum faintly, and for a brief moment, images flashed in his mind. He wasn't sure if they were his thoughts or something the seat was showing him. Two figures stood back to back on a battlefield, surrounded by a seething mass of enemies. One wielded a whip of glowing green venom, his tattoos blazing as he lashed out at their foes. The other manipulated the air itself, weaving dreams into reality to confuse and destroy the attackers. The Poison Lord and the Dream Lord fought as one, their synergy unmatched. The Poison Lord's strikes were brutal and calculated, his venom searing flesh and twisting through the battlefield like a living serpent. The Dream Lord, with his glowing aura, conjured illusions and nightmares, disorienting their enemies and turning their worst fears into devastating weapons. Their power together was unstoppable, until it wasn't. From the shadows of the battlefield emerged a monstrous figure, towering and ancient, its form a blur of shifting darkness and jagged claws. Its roar shattered the air, and in one swift motion it lunged at the Dream Lord. The beast's claws tore through him, his illusions flickering and fading as he staggered. "No!" the Poison Lord bellowed, his whip lashing out, venom crackling as it struck the creature's hide. The beast recoiled, but only for a moment. It turned its attention to the Poison Lord and struck with a speed and ferocity that even he could not counter. The venom-covered whip fell to the ground as the Poison Lord collapsed, clutching his side where the beast's claws had torn through him. The battlefield grew quiet as the two lords lay mortally wounded. The Poison Lord crawled toward his ally, his tattoos dimming, their glow fading like embers. The Dream Lord turned his head weakly, his once brilliant eyes dulled with pain. In their final moments, they exchanged a silent look of understanding. No words were spoken, but the message was clear. They had given everything. Whatever this enemy was, it was beyond them. The rest would be up to those who came after. The vision faded, and Sylas blinked, his heart pounding. He could still feel the weight of their sacrifice, the raw power they had wielded, and the terrible cost of their final stand. He looked at Elias, still seated on the throne, and clenched his fists. The tattoos on his arms pulsed faintly, as though responding to his thoughts. "We'll finish what they started," Sylas muttered, his voice steady and filled with quiet determination. Back to the boys. Sylas turned his gaze to Elias, who remained bound to the throne, his head tilted back as if asleep. The glow of the seat dimmed ever so slightly, the air in the cave growing quieter, calmer. Sylas took a shaky breath, brushing the dust from his hands as he stood tall. "Elias," he called softly, his voice echoing faintly. "You still in there?" Elias's voice came through their psychic link, faint but reassuring. "I'm here. Just give me time." Sylas nodded, his lips pressing into a thin line. He glanced at the tattoos winding up his arms, still glowing faintly in the dim light of the cave. The weight of what had just happened began to settle on him. The silence in the cave was broken by a faint sound, footsteps, distant but growing louder. Sylas tensed, his body instinctively moving between the cave entrance and the throne. "Someone's coming," he muttered, his voice low. His enhanced senses, still unfamiliar but sharp, picked up more details. The crunch of boots on loose stones, hushed voices calling out their names. "Sylas! Elias! Are you in there?" The voice was familiar, warm, and filled with worry. It was their family, searching for them. Sylas exhaled, relief mixing with tension as he glanced back at Elias. "Looks like we're not alone anymore." The footsteps grew louder, echoing in the cavern, and the faint glow of lanterns flickered down the passageway. Sylas tightened his fists, the green tattoos on his arms flaring briefly before dimming. He cast one last look at the Nightmare Lord's seat, still silent but ominous, and then turned toward the voices of their family.